All right, back in 2017, we witnessed anti-Semitic attacks on Jewish community centers throughout the country. And as press secretary, I denounced these attacks on behalf of President Trump and the administration. And despite being very, very clear on the president's position, it never was good enough for reporters. Take a listen.
I think that the president's remarks and your clarification about where he stands on anti-Semitism is clear. But after that statement was made by the president, the Anne Frank Center released a pretty strongly worded one, saying that these remarks, while well received, are a Band-Aid on the cancer within the Trump administration, saying that there is, whether blessed or otherwise, a sense of xenophobia within this administration.
He made very clear he was not anti-Semitic, and he was in fact insulted by that. But as far as a broader message to the American people, he declined to offer one.
All right, now let's watch how they handled Jen Psaki when she got hit on the same issue. Oh, wait. Oh,
and why are you letting Germany and
She's never been grilled on this. So let's bring in our company to discuss this. We have host of Stacy on the right, Stacy Washington, and host of the Gorka Reality Check right here on Newsmax Sunday nights, Dr. Sebastian Gorka. Good to see you both.
Hello. Great to be back, Sean.
So, Seb, I want to start with you. You and I were there at the same time. When President Trump denounced anti-Semitism, when I denounced it on his behalf, when you would go out and do hits, we would say the same thing over and over again. And as you just saw in that clip, it was never good enough. And yet the Biden administration has seen this rise of anti-Semitism in all of these Democratic members of Congress, which we just played earlier in the show. And yet there's no pressing the White House on what they're doing.
Sean, Lindsay, we usually have fun when I come on the show, but not tonight. This is personal, and this really angers me. For 4 years, the president, you, Stephen Miller, a Jew, myself, were called racists, Islamophobes, white supremacists, and Nazis. The people who did that have the real problem with racism in their party. Let's be clear, it's just a statement of fact. Donald Trump is married to an immigrant. His son-in-law is Jewish. His daughter converted to Judaism, and his grandchildren are Jewish. For 23 years, every stinking president on the left and the right broke their promise to Israel to recognize Jerusalem and move the embassy. One man kept that promise. Your boss and my boss, Donald Trump. He is the most philo-Semitic president since Israel was refounded in 1948. And guess where the real anti-Semites are? The real anti-Semites, when they're not on the streets of New York, in Blasio's New York, beating up Orthodox Jews, they're in the Democrat Party on Capitol Hill. People like AOC, proud member of the anti-Semitic BDS movement, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, who talk about the evil nation that is Israel, talk about the Benjamins, and that Israel has, quote unquote, hypnotized the West. There is an anti-Semitic problem in this nation, Sean, and it is inside the Democrat Party.
Yeah. You know, the crazy thing about all this, Stacy, is that you look at the Biden administration and how they've handled the situation. As Sean called out, Jen Psaki has received 0 questions when it comes to being xenophobic, this administration, yet we are seeing a rise 40% in anti-Semitic attacks in recent weeks. So why aren't they getting asked about this?
Well, with President Trump, it was always, when's the last time you beat your wife? There was no way for him to affirmatively to deny the charge of anti-Semitism, even though, as Seb just noted there in such great detail, that he has Jewish people in his family. He did business with Jewish people. He really has deep ties to the Jewish community in New York and across the country for projects that he's done. And he's never discriminated on any of his television programs or projects or golfing things, even the Miss World pageants, all of the different things he owned and ran. He's never actually been charged with that until he became a Republican. So it's really more about his politics than it is any actions that he's taken. And on the other hand, you have Jen Psaki, who hands cookies out to the good minions who are in the room with her. She gives them cookies as a reward for behaving nicely towards her as they've been told to do, because they would never stand for Jen Psaki to be called names or to be screamed at as she left the room, or for them to pound her with questions over and over again, even though she'd already answered. And Jen is rarely prepared. She's often in the room unprepared to answer questions. which is what has coined this huge phrase. Everyone uses it. I heard one of my relatives using it at the graduation ceremony the other night. We'll circle back to that. Everyone talks about circling back because if you don't know what you're doing or you don't have an answer right away, you can circle back. So of course, she's unprepared. She doesn't have to be prepared because there are no standards for the Biden administration. He has dementia. All of his employees in the administration are incompetent. And we're dealing with this as Americans because we've allowed it to happen. So the onus is on us. The anti-Semitism that's going on in New York should be put down immediately, but nothing's happening because New York has lost its will to prosecute offenders and to hold people in jail instead of just letting them walk out with no bail. So this is a serious problem, but Americans can handle it. We need a change in leadership.
Guys, I'm sorry to cut this short. Unfortunately, the show is only an hour, and we're out of time here. I appreciate you both coming in and cutting it short, but we'll have you both back because I want to talk about the fact that it's amazing that despite all this stuff that Seb laid out and that you laid out, Stacy, majority of Jews in America still vote for a Democratic Party that doesn't stand with Israel. And I think that's a really interesting...
Except the Orthodox Jews. 92% of Orthodox Jews voted for Donald Trump, and that we have to note that. They understand who Donald Trump really is.
Yeah. Correct. And that record of his. Anyway, thank you both for being here, and we'll have you back soon to catch up.
Thank you.